guys, it's me, Miss J, and today we're going to be going over some of quoting, paraphrasing, and summary. So the things that we would have covered in class, but you guys get me online today because it's snowing out, and I hope you have a good time playing in the snow and staying safe inside. So let's get started. We'll start by reviewing the pages that you read for today. So let me get just one moment to flip there. So for assignment 2, you will be finding sources to help enhance the aspects that you're highlighting for your public figure. So you should be finding a commendable public figure and highlighting their strengths. So the first thing that you need to do as a credible rhetorician is look for credible sources. And so the people that you find to uplift these strengths of your person, your public figure, should not just be any kind of sources that highlight what you want them to highlight. So if you feel that your public figure is very family-oriented person, that's a strength that you want to highlight, you wouldn't just find any old article where someone on a blog said that he was a family-oriented person. You would find someone who, for example, got a degree in family studies. And so that's what makes them credible to report on his ability to be networking in families and working that through. So whatever strength you're highlighting, you should be finding a source who has an expertise in that field. Okay? So one of the English terms that you may have heard before is a drop quote. A drop quote is exactly what it sounds like, and if you hear little tweets in the background, that's my bird. But a drop quote is literally a quote that's just dropped in the middle of your sentences. So you have a sentence, a period, a quote, a period, and then another sentence. And the problem with that is we don't know the credibility of that person because you haven't told us that credibility within the paragraph itself. So a way to avoid that is... Do you like my notes? Introductions. So what you're going to do is introduce your source. Now the book gives some good examples of this. Some signal phrases, for example, are according to. So if you flip to page 556 in our nice bright yellow book, you'll see according to the noted primatologist. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what a primatologist is or a primatologist. But it's someone who in the field had an expertise for whatever that author was trying to highlight. So for you, for example, if you want to go back to the example of highlighting the family core values, you would say, according to family life expert so-and-so, and then you would quote. So do you see how that credibility, inserting that little bit of credibility, makes your argument that much stronger? It's really using your rhetoric to your advantage, and that helps you gain credibility as well. So that's the first lesson on you find your sources first, what the strengths you want to highlight are, find experts in that field, and then give introductions for those sources that'll enhance their credibility within your paper. Now, an additional aspect that you all will face is, okay, so I have this person, and so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this. Well, the first thing to know about MLA documentation is that we typically stay in the present tense. And so instead of using the past tense words like said, we will use present tense to bring us in as if the argument's ongoing right now. And plus, instead of said, we want to use all different kinds of verbs. We want to vary that verb language depending on what they're doing, because we will have some sources who argue something, some sources who are merely informing on a subject, some sources who are trying to persuade their reader to believe something. And so you want to use that language to really show, I and the other readers have not read all of these articles and won't read every single one of them. But we can get a good idea of what the summary of the article is, so what the article is doing based on your verbs and how you explain what that author is doing. So you want to make sure you're trying to give an accurate representation of what the author was doing within the article. So you wouldn't want to just do whatever would lead to your advantage, but you want to be true to the author. So on page 557, there are 4 columns of verbs there that are really helpful to give you a start. So if you are a synonym clicker on Word, you just right click and look for synonyms. That's one option of finding other verbs. But we have some right in our book here, particularly related to arguments. And so when you're looking at your sources, you might be able to have that someone remarked something, okay? So simply they remarked this phrase. They reply, and notice that all of these end in S, so they're in the present tense, already in the right form for you to use for MLA. So Anderson, so if we're talking about me, Anderson replies, and then the quote. Or Anderson reports, Anderson responds, interprets, lists, okay? So if you have someone who listed qualities of your public figure, for example, or later in your research made a different kind of list, then you could have lists. If someone is opposing a different viewpoint, you might have opposes or objects, offers an explanation, disagrees. Okay, so it's really important to know what the author is doing in context with everything else that's going around it too. What other arguments are being made? Who else is part of that conversation? You can bring in the other people within that conversation. Someone asserts. Remember in rhetoric that we have assertions, and then we also have someone using authority. So an assertion is a mere statement. It's not using that credibility to the full advantage. It's just making a statement. Having authority is backing that up. Okay, so an assertion could be he never looks good when he comes to class, or he doesn't have a strong idea of his knowledge area. That's just an assertion. We can believe the person who's saying those things, or we cannot. And it's typically within rhetoric, it's better to not believe something if it doesn't have the credibility. So if I say he's not fully aware of his knowledge area, for example, he came this one time with this misleading information, whatever it might have been, if we have something to back it up, a cited source, that's what makes something have authority. Okay, so if someone is asserting something, it might not be the strongest source to use unless they have something to back them up as well. Okay, so you want to use credible sources, ones that document other experts if they're not the full expert on a field, which none of us ever are the sole expert, and bring in other people of the conversation and utilize those verbs that are right in our book. So if I see a lot of says and said, I'm going to ask you to revise and utilize your verbs stronger. So that's one way you can start introducing your sources, and you can start utilizing those verbs to say what exactly they're doing that makes your argument even stronger for why this public figure is absolutely commendable. Now page 561, in our book has a bullet-pointed list of really important ideas to be aware of when we're quoting different sources within our papers. One of them that I particularly like is that we at least say something, a few more sentences after we quote anyone. So you'll never end a paragraph or end a statement with just, and according to so-and-so, he is a strong blank. Okay? You won't end with that. You'll keep going, and you'll have a few more sentences that drive your point home. Because in all of your research, all of your papers, remember, it's your points you want to highlight. The other research has already been done. Merely just repeating that wouldn't give us a true purpose in the research field, or in this case, in a field where you're trying to argue a strong point about someone who is commendable, rather than looked down upon in the public's eyes. So you want to make sure that you are expanding on what's already been given and reinforcing your main thesis. So the main idea of your paper should be highlighted based upon the quote that you're using, and then you should add a few sentences of your own. If you're wondering about MLA particularly, make sure you utilize your books. If you need an online source, if you're working online, I really recommend OWL at Purdue. It's simply if you type in OWL at Purdue University, so Purdue. If you type that into Google, you'll find that they have citation styles, a quick glance and an example of each type. So we're using MLA for this one. You can use other sources as well. Just make sure you're using 2009 and before and after. So we won't have underlining in the new MLA. We will typically not have, if you're using a source from the internet, we won't use the link exactly. So look up those new 2009 and after rules as well. Make sure that you're citing correctly. You will cite in text, and you will have a works cited page at the end. So remember, you should have 2 to 3 sources beyond your main source, and you should cite them in text, in parentheses. So this is parenthetical citation. These are our little parentheses. And inside, we're always going to have the author's last name and then the page number. There's no comma in between. Commas kind of signify APA style. Just look it up in your manual so that you are comfortable finding it, knowing where to reference that. Paraphrasing. Okay, I thought I should switch up my language a little bit. Paraphrasing, you take an idea and you simplify it down. You're not direct quoting, but you're still referring to an exact idea that's from a specific passage, an article that an expert in your field has published. So you want to refer to that exactly, but you want to use your own words. And remember, I gave you guys a tool for this in class. I said, if you're reading a source, flip it over and then say, what is it? What is it saying? What's it about? That helps me anyway to not use the original author's words. Okay, you don't want to do that. It's called plagiarism, and there are many felonies that come along with that. And so you want to flip over your article, paraphrase what it's saying, which is putting it in your own words, and then still you'll use parenthetical citation. So even when paraphrasing in MLA, you're going to use parenthetical citation to say what page that basic idea came from. So a lot of people might not know that, so pay attention. I'll know that you watched this video if you make sure to use in text with your paraphrases. Okay, so those are the basics of paraphrasing and summary we've gone over in class. You're doing the very basic elements that are going on, and quoting. And so I expect all of you to have brilliant arguments within your papers. Now when you set up your thesis, make sure that you have a strong one that's capitalizing on 3 main strengths maybe of your public figure, so that it has some sort of organization throughout your essay. That if you have a thesis that has 3 main parts, then your first paragraph will show us the first part. Then after that, if it takes you 2 or 3 to talk about the first one, fine. But your next set of paragraphs will have the second thing that you mentioned. And then finally your third one will have the last one, so number 3. And then you'll have a conclusion that drives home your point, that convinces your reader using persuasion, doesn't bring any new information in, but it does say something in a new way. So you're not merely restating like we've been taught in the past, just restate your thesis. Bring us something that really capitalizes on your argument, and have fun with it. Don't be afraid to really pick someone that you enjoy in the public and capitalize on that person's strengths to kind of share with the rest of us some commendable people that we have in society. Have fun, and I'll see you guys next time. The homework assignment that you'll have is to choose a quote that you are going to use for your paper, maybe one that you've already inserted, and create a great introduction using the book and using what we've talked about. So have an introduction for that quote and a strong verb. Also choose a paraphrase and make sure that you have a correct in-text citation. Bring those all to class on Friday and be ready for your peer revision workshop as well. So bring a full copy of your paper written up, and I will see you on Friday. And come with your 3 questions, of course, to have your classmates focus on during that peer revision time. Have a great day and enjoy the snow day.